Today we had the honor of welcoming Mike Rosby, who is a perfumer and creative director at Lescento, which is a fragrance brand that we recently brought onto BSC, and it was such an interesting episode. He has dabbled in so many different industries in his life and really came and found his passion in creating scents and creating perfumes. It's a newer brand, which is really cool, and it's from Montreal. And we really just dove into dissecting different perfumes, how scents are made, kind of like the backstories. I don't feel like it's not spoken about a lot, creating
It's
perfumes, and it's
not.
just very interesting to learn about it all.
Yeah. What I like so much about Lescento is it's a niche.
Yeah.
Prior to using Lescento, I'm a Le Labo girl. So because I really like different smelling fragrances, when I
Yeah.
walk through a duty free or a Sephora, I mean, I'm panicking because I cannot stand for me, it's like an assault of sensory experiences that I don't
A lot.
appreciate. So whenever I've chosen a perfume or a fragrance, it's always something that's not the standard.
Hmm.
And so I was using Le Labo, and I find that he has created this beautiful fragrance line from his artistic expression. Because he is an artist, even though he's got a pharmaceutical background, he's an artist. And we stumbled across this brand by chance, and it's got so much personality to it.
Yeah.
And it's something that I really recommend that you try because it's different. They've
Hmm.
got beautiful kits that you can purchase that gives you it gives you a taste of each scent, but very different, very niche, and very unique. And he just brought it to life with a beautiful story, and we're just really happy that this is the first fragrance brand that we have launched onto BSC because we've been talking about it for 2 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's fun
Finally,
for
we've
all.
done it.
Yeah.
But yes, so welcome to Skin Talks, Mike. Mike, we're so excited to have you on Skin Talks today. Before we started this episode, we kind of were dabbling into the different industries that you've been involved in throughout your entire life, and it's quite interesting. And I think for our listeners, if you would like to give a little bit of a backstory of how you ended up as an artist, as a perfumer, and creative director at Lescento, just to so they can understand you a little bit, because I feel like you have a very interesting past in all these different industries, and would just love to learn a little bit more.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me. A bit about me. In arts, I'm known as Rosby. So arts has been part of me, part of my life, part of my family for generations. So whether it's writing, poetry, visual arts, and just going before into it, my career-wise, I worked in pharmaceutical industry as a sales rep in the beginning. That was a while ago, and then I ended up founding a company called Pharma Webinars, which we train all, pharmaceutical GMP scientists, and that information for experience for almost 20 something years has come very handy in terms of what we're going to discuss, and perfumes and fragrances and whatnot. But uh, going back to the main thing, arts, I've been always passionate about arts. I've created paintings for almost all of my life. I fall within what's called figurative abstract expressionism. This is where you express yourself through figures, abstractions, and whatnot. So how I ended up with in creating perfumes and becoming a perfumer is that as an artist you always wonder, and you always want to create more, right? So my curiosity led me to think about what other art forms are out there for me to be creative in and create things. And chefs make great food. That's something that I'm not very good at. You have the fashion designers, which it comes, create great fabric and whatnot for the sense of touch. So the sense of taste, sense of touch, right there, and then I started wandering into the olfactory art, the art of creating scents, which is, perfumes are a poetry for the nose, let's call it. So about 10 years ago, I started, educating myself on my own online, took some courses, and started experimenting with the art of creating perfumes. It is a very, very expensive hobby, and it has been and still is. And it took years for me to really understand how a fragrance is formulated, what makes it high quality, and how to be different as an artist to create these fragrances. And eventually I started creating some prototypes and some, started passing it around, and I saw that I was receiving very good feedback in terms of these perfumes. One of the main thing was that these are very different. I tend to go make them smell very natural, and also being a business owner, alongside my business partner, we thought of, let's turn this into an actual business, and create these perfumes. So the main focus, the main thing is for me to have my creations and what we create at Lescento out there, and for people to enjoy. So I can, talk more about this, but we ended up creating Lescento, and we recently launched, actually a couple of months ago, with our first collection of 5 fragrances called the Essence of Mastery. There's a story, there's an idea behind every fragrance, and every fragrance is totally different. And so far, the response has been great. So briefly, this is how I ended up in perfumes. Yeah.
And so, thank you for sharing that with us. That was very interesting. I love that you have that art background, because that creative approach that you bring into your fragrance line is very clear to me. When I look at it, when I smell them, I can feel that you have a very creative side to you, that you've really tapped into this, and it comes maybe probably naturally to you, right?
Yes.
But the thing what I wanted to know is, how long did it actually take you to create these 5 fragrances once you had the courses behind you? Was it the full 10 years, or is this something more recent?
No, it was more recent. It was in the past 3 years, I would say.
Okay.
Before that, it was just everything I created smelled horrible.
Okay.
And, I really had to understand. And at one point, I actually took a break from wasting money on creating fragrances. And I went to educating myself to really understand, any art, anything you create, knowledge is the key, I believe. And I had to stop and take courses, study, and nowadays online there's so many different resources, and if you have time and you have patience and you can read and learn and experiment, then you're going to. So at one point I had to stop, but this has been very recent. Once I understood how fragrances are made, and the notes and everything that goes into creating a great fragrance, then slowly start picking up. And as I mentioned, I've done so many different things that at recent, actually last year, I had my fragrances, and I also bought very famous fragrances like Chanel Number 5, Bleu de Chanel, and some other designer brands, and I would put them in these tiny vials, what we call minis, Lescento, without any marking on them, and friends, family, and whatnot, and I used to make them smell it and let them choose which is good and which is not. And this is when I got to a point that I realized that, okay, there's some people who are choosing mine over the designer brand, and Also, just before starting Lescento, we had to, send these perfumes and whatnot just to make sure it is a viable business idea for us to invest in and create this to actually professional, organizations. Well, they had focus groups, and the overall feedback was good, and we got the green check mark that okay, it
Oh,
is,
that's so
the
fun. So
proof.
you've really
Yeah,
done your homework, eh?
Yeah.
I had to,
Really done your
yes.
homework. So I wanted to tell you, like years ago, I was in the distribution business, but a different kind of distribution business. And I was in the south of France with a brand that we represented. And one of the activities that they introduced us to was creating fragrances. Because being in the south of France, I think there's a lot of roots there. And what I learned
Yep,
is that there's a top, a heart, and a base to a fragrance, right?
that's correct.
Could you
Yeah.
talk about that a little bit, like how that works and what the weight is of each section, and just how you create?
Well, that applies to every single fragrance out there, right? And
Yeah.
that is also something that I believe everybody should know. And it helps us to choose the correct fragrance and just to understand how a fragrance perform and lives, right? And so a fragrance has a top notes. The entire formulation and composition of fragrance, you have top notes, you have heart or middle notes, and then you have the base notes. Now, for the top notes, we are talking about very fresh, citrusy notes. You can have fruity notes. It could be, we're talking about lemon, lime, bergamot, pineapple, peppermint, and whatnot. So they could be herbal too, not just fruity. But these are fresh notes that you smell immediately after you spray fragrance. And then you have the heart notes. This is where the notes that put together the entire composition of a perfume that develop after your top notes. Top notes are usually very short-lived. And one of the biggest mistakes that we often make is that we are somewhere to choose a perfume and we just spray it, we smell it, and we're like, oh, I don't like it, or I love it, right? So you have not experienced the perfume yet, the fragrance yet. So the top notes you have to give it about depends on the composition, on what is in it. It could take somewhere between 5 to 15 minutes, or even sometimes 20 minutes for it to dissipate. And this is where you're going to have the core starting emerging. And you're going to have in cardamom, depending on fragrance family, you're going to have different notes emerging. And then it could have one, or it could have multiple different ingredients in the heart note, and then the function of the base
The
note.
medium note is the medium note what you're left with after the top notes are kind of 10 to 15, like 5 to 10 minutes. Are they the ones that you smell that remain kind of thing?
Yeah, the middle note, the heart note. Yeah, so you smell that in composition with the base. So now the base, the middle notes could be vanilla, jasmine, and a bunch of other, hundreds, if not thousands, of different notes. And then you have the base. The base is usually the we're talking about woods, oud, cedar woods, amber. You have patchouli. This is there to give you fragrance longevity and depth. So just I try to just
Yeah.
simplify it. Top notes, you have middle notes, hard notes. That's called hard notes, middle notes, and you have the base notes. So just to add to that is that again, it's very important to experience all that. So I always suggest that if you want to choose or find a signature fragrance or multiple different fragrances, try to spray it on, live with it, have it, experience it for a day or half a day and see how these notes develop, and now you can get to the topic of, quality and whatnot and how they interact with each other. But to answer your question, those are the three different layers of a fragrance.
I
Okay.
I think that's really interesting because I always say that whenever I would spray a perfume on me, I always found throughout the day that it would smell different. And originally, I thought it had to do somewhat with the chemistry of your body. Like, I thought it was like if
Your
I were to
pH
spray,
level, like,
yeah, if I were to spray like let's say one on me and then one on Beata, and then throughout the day it would smell a little bit different on us. If you can elaborate on that, and then
like, why is
also,
that though? Yeah, like why?
Well, it's the body chemistry plays a very your skin chemistry, sorry, plays a very important role on how a fragrance smells, you know, and there's so many different factors that affect that. For example, if you have dry skin, this is going to take in the fragrance, and the projection is not going to be as much, and it's going to smell different than a skin that is actually more oily. So that's why it's always suggested that before spraying your perfume, to put a bit of lotion or something that doesn't have a scent, and that is going to help with the longevity and the actual smell of the perfume. Another thing that affects that, it's the pH level of your skin. And our pH level fluctuates for everyone, with hormones, with the ladies, different times, your pH level of your skin can be totally different. So a perfume that could smell a certain way on your skin this week, in a couple of weeks from now, if the pH level is different, for example, if it's acidic, if your hormones have, result in a more acidic pH level in your skin, then it is going to interfere and change those notes or how a perfume overall smells, and that's why it's recommended to not wear perfume only on your skin, because sometimes some skins, they just eat through a fragrance within like half an hour. You don't smell it anymore.
Happened to me before. That's happened to
Yeah.
me before where I buy a fragrance and I love the smell in the bottle, but I put it on and I don't smell of anything.
Well, there are two reasons there.
It's like it's gone. And
There are two
pardon?
there are two reasons there. One of them is, as I mentioned, your skin chemistry of how long it lasts. But the most common one that happens to everyone is called olfactory fatigue, or your olfactory system is so used to that type of scent, not that fragrance, but that smell, that some others can smell it on you, but you do not smell it anymore
Oh,
on yourself.
interesting. Interesting.
So it doesn't see why it should recognize the smell, unless the composition of fragrance is such that there are other ingredients is, and it says, hey, wait a second, there's something more to that cinnamon smell that I'm used to, right? So,
Yeah.
so these are two main reasons. And another one is also if the quality of
Yes.
fragrance is not good with dilutions and whatnot, sometimes it does affect it.
So how do you go about choosing, like understanding what a high quality fragrance is versus a lower quality fragrance?
So high quality fragrances, there's so much that goes into it. I mean, just to look at fragrance categories, what we have right now, you have the designer fragrances, and then you have niche fragrances. This is where we fall under. Designer fragrances are mass-produced fragrances. Often enough, they have to save cost. They don't use the right, sometimes they don't even use the correct type of perfumery alcohol. That's why you have, it's, that alcohol stench in the beginning, and you have to allow it to dissipate. And then you have the production time and bottling and whatnot. Designer mass-produced perfumes could be, formulated, composed, and bottled within a week or two, and that's it, because they just have to, mass-produce that. With niche fragrances, first of all, the ingredients are very, very important. This is where we're going to touch on synthetic and natural ingredients, and what are the difference. We're going to go back to that, but so the quality, what makes a fragrance high quality, the quality of the ingredients, very, very important. And now I can speak an hour on that. For example, when it comes to ingredients, where are, let's say, if you're using natural ingredients as part of some of the synthetic, because everyone are using certain, synthetic molecules, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the quality of ingredients, for example, we pick vanilla, right?
Hmm.
There there's vanilla that comes from different parts of the world, right? The best vanilla comes that what we use here, Lescento from Madagascar.
Yeah.
Okay. And now that vanilla, that's one of the 1,000 different notes that could be in different fragrances, is harvested and processed for perfumery in there are different types of vanilla. Right, so you have vanilla CO2. This is you use that if you want to have that very pure vanilla smell, right? What we use called vanilla absolute. So it's almost a tar-like substance. It has a lot of depth, very woody, and then we have to process it on the side before we use it in our perfumes, and then you have multiple different ways of, you have the essential oils that rare, but with vanilla, I'm talking about pure oils for perfumery, but also that could smell different. So the vanilla that you receive from Madagascar that you use, the oil that is originated there, could smell different depending on the harvest, depending just wine, just like red wine, depending on how the weather was, how it was processed,
The sunshine, all of it.
Hmm.
everything.
Environment of you're basically saying
Crazy.
the environment of the
That's and
ground.
that's why in niche fragrances, a lot of Creed Aventus, for example, is one of the ones that is followed the most by so many different men, and they always look for different batch numbers. Hey, where can I find this batch? Because each batch could actually smell different depending on those ingredients and how where they came from. So that's one of them. Quality of how to recognize quality ingredients. You smell it. That results in note development. As we mentioned, you have your top, middle, and your top, middle, heart, and base note. These base levels of how your fragrance behaves. What is the harmony in a fragrance? Often enough, anything that's very synthetic, anything that's over, you smell it right away. You smell, for example, the alcohol. If you're smelling alcohol, that is not a good sign. If you feel the notes are on and off, like look at it as a straight line, and there's no harmony in a fragrance, that means it's not of high quality, and it's all over the place. You smell the cinnamon, and then you smell the bergamot, and then you
Okay.
know what I mean.
Yeah.
So the development of it, then you have longevity, projection, and silage. Longevity is how long a perfume lasts on you. Again, it doesn't mean perfume is bad. Longevity could be because of your pH on your skin. It could be about weather. The weather changes that in cold weather. And then you have projection. Projection is how far, who can smell across the room. That's one thing, something that some individuals like it. And then I personally do not like to have wear over powering
Yeah.
fragrance. I always like something for myself, something that
Subtle.
people around me can have a hint of. Always chase it rather than saying, "Okay, enough." It
Yeah.
smells
There's
too
some,
much.
there's some, it's like, yeah, I agree. There's some fragrances that you smell and it's so overpowering that it's almost nauseating. And
Yeah,
you can, even if you walk into a room or walking down the street, it can pass you by and just like overwhelm you with not a positive,
exactly.
I used
So
to,
yeah,
when I was in university, there was always this one girl that would spray. I don't even think it was like a perfume, like it was just a spray that it was like in a plastic bottle, it looked like, from my memory. This was years ago. But I remember that I used to go to the library and I knew exactly when she was there because I could smell this one specific scent that like was always what she wore. And it was like this super sweet vanilla. And it's like I would walk into the library and I'd smell it and I'd be like, oh, this girl's here again, like immediately. And I'm just like, it
yeah,
was
it's
so
not,
overpowering
yeah,
that I was like,
It
ah,
It is, and time has changed, right? So perfumes originally were made to Middle Ages because people used to bathe once every 3 months. So it used to be stronger, and as we have evolved and things have changed, and more individuals do not like anything that's overpowering, right? And that also very important to have a selection of different fragrances and perfumes. But just to answer the question that you had before, so projection, you have your longevity projection, then silage is the trail that it leaves behind. So that is also very important in fragrances, to recognize the quality. Another one that is very misleading: designer brands and packaging. Something that we kind of stayed away from. Often enough, people fall for having a very beautiful box, and it comes with great presentation. Does not mean the fragrance is not good, but usually boxes end up in the recycling. No one keeps them, right? So you do not want to go for something because it's so flashy, right? And you want to really go for the essence and see how it is. So do not fall. I always tell people, do not fall.
No fault
With
for marketing.
quality. Yeah, so do not fall for that. The quality, only because it's $450 and the packaging is amazing and there's a mini diamond that comes with it, does not make it a high quality fragrance. So packaging presentation is very misleading. Another thing that I would say that comes that's very important, that we know people who create and bottle these perfumes and sell them, the atomizer. The atomizer is of high importance in perfumes, in fragrances. It makes a day and night difference in terms of actual fragrance performance, and the atomizer is in charge of, it disperses the essence, the perfume. So you also want to check that. If you have a tester and you press it and you see it's spreading, spreads almost liquid and not much that puff,
Yeah.
yeah, the mist, then that is not a good sign. So overall, the most important thing is just to look at how a perfume, from initial reaction you have to it, of how it smells. You don't want it to smell like harsh alcohol. A lot of designer brands, they don't even use perfumery alcohol. So and then what they have to do is that they have to put extra chemical in the perfume to mask that
Smell, smell. Yeah.
alcohol smell. This is just to save costs, correct? So you want to see how it develops. Live with the perfume for a day. Put it on, see how it develops, and honestly, anyone, just a very logically, you look at it, it develops very well. And oftentimes, if you find yourself smelling it and you're going back to it because it has changed and there's a harmony to entire composition, that's a good sign that the perfume is of high quality, that it's not giving you a headache, or it's not
Nauseous.
someone around you is not saying, okay, stop putting that on and whatnot. So live with it, and
Yeah. I sound like a broken record when I talk about Jan Marini, but I can't help it. I'm genuinely in love with this brand. Jan Marini is a recognized leader and innovator in skincare, always pushing the boundaries to elevate the professional skincare market. Their skincare management system has transformed my skin, and it's no surprise it's been named the best skincare system for 12 consecutive years. From cleanser to sunscreen, Jan Marini's complete skincare kit has everything you need for a healthy, youthful looking skin. Personally, Jan Marini is the only brand that has effectively controlled my melasma, which is one of my biggest skin concerns. And over the years, I've also noticed significant improvements in my skin's texture and radiance. Her brand truly offers solutions for all skin types and concerns. We have Jan on the podcast regularly, and her wealth of knowledge is incredible. No wonder her products are some of the best in the industry. If you want to try these products, go to bskinenvie.ca. That's BSKINENVIE.ca and use code SkinTalks to get 10% off your first purchase.
How do you go about choosing a fragrance for yourself? Like what?
Yeah, or like for different seasons.
Yeah.
How do you choose a fragrance? I mean, that has to do exactly with your personality. and who you are. And we live in an age that individuality and being unique and all that is very important. And how do you go about choosing it? There are two sides to it. One of them is we're talking about seasons, and then you have what you like to wear, as a person, and what resonates for you. But now, season wise, you have, four seasons, starting with spring. Spring is usually the beginning of, blossoms and things coming out of ground,
Right.
and you have those fresh smells. So, springtime usually very herbal. Anything that's green, that is very it's not overpowering, not, and then you move on to summertime. We're talking about lots of citrusy notes, anything that's very vibrant, very fresh. And this is called one of the families of, main four families of fragrances: fresh notes, fruity, citrusy, and whatnot. Move into autumn, fall. This is where you go for fragrances with more, light woody notes, notes like cinnamon, oriental spices, cardamom, black pepper, anything like that. And then obviously when you get to winter, this is when all the oud, wood, and very heavy fragrances with those notes kick in. So these are kind of the four ways of looking at it, that how to go about season. Now, from a personality point of view, it has to do with the person. One thing I like to mention, that the notes in a perfume are often misleading. Okay, so let's say you are at a store with 100 different perfumes, and you do not like the smell of patchouli, and you see a fragrance that one of the notes in the in the middle, or hard note, includes patchouli, and right away you don't even test it, you don't even smell it, because you do not like patchouli. Well, that is actually a big mistake, because the notes on a perfume that you see, or how they're marketed, that is not that actually how the entire composition. Those are hints of an entire structure. So you have to look at it like that. So often enough, that could have been your most favorite perfume with the patchouli in it, because you're not going to even smell patchouli. Let me give you an example. For example, you have a sheet, and you painted yellow, correct?
Yeah.
And then let's say colors were scents, and then you paint blue over yellow. What do you get?
Or
Green.
green, right?
Green.
Yeah.
Exactly. So yellow is there, blue is there. But what you see,
You've created something that's completely different.
exactly.
Okay,
So
yeah.
that's how a perfume works, right? Entire composition works. You enter a house, you don't see the actual structure within the walls. So you have to go about choosing a perfume. Before I get into what resonates with your personality, is smell it, don't go by the notes. I don't even look at the notes. Just smell it and see what you smell, because
So interesting.
what smells to you could be different to different individuals. And then just a bit of few scientific facts about it. So when you smell the scent, it goes straight to your receptors, to your olfactory system bulb, which is on top, right? And it is in charge of emotions, memories,
Memories. Yeah, I
and
was going to say.
behavior,
Oh,
right?
behavior. Yeah, because it
And
could make you feel very uplifted, or it could also make you feel very heavy, right?
exactly. So olfactory system is also connected to our hypothalamus system, which is in charge of emotions and sensory processing, and that also controls your master gland, which is your pituitary gland, or the main gland that is in charge of your overall happiness, well-being, and producing hormones like serotonin, cortisol, endorphins,
Oh,
and whatnot.
interesting.
Yes, very
So
interesting.
how am I connecting this to choosing a fragrance? Is that, let's say, we all have life experiences, and we have been places, and we have smelled things. You mentioned you've been to South of France. Most probably have smelled, something there that we don't have here. Or let's say different parts of the world have different smells and
Yeah, the Middle
vegetation and
Eastern
whatnot.
smells are very different than the North American smells. Like, yeah, I've noticed that.
I'm talking about vegetation. Just
Oh,
nature, what
okay.
your brain
What
have
you
taken
grow
in.
there, yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of these are processed into your subconscious. Consciousness is what we see and think.
Yeah.
Subconscious is what drives us without us really knowing. And how to choose a scent for yourself is that smell it. And sometimes these notes bring back these memories.
Yeah.
They alter our behavior. You might be down and not feeling well, and you might, walk into a niche perfumery or a perfume store and smell something, and all of a sudden start, your endorphins kick in and you feel better,
Yeah. Yeah.
So these are, it brings in back good memories without you even realizing it's bringing those memories back to you. It just, let's say if you were a child and you were playing, you played in grass and it was very lush and you smelled that, this is all in your subconscious. So
Back
now
your
as
childhood.
a
Yeah.
Exactly. So as an adult, when you smell that within a fragrance, without even knowing you're smelling that, you might still start feeling well, like
Yeah.
you were as a child, right? So there's so many different factors that involve in choosing a perfume for yourself, aside from seasons and just that how the brain processes the fragrance is of high importance.
It
But
is.
overall, choose it for yourself,
Yeah.
smell it, live with it, and see how it resonates.
Yeah. It's funny because you say that, and I look at the brands that are mass market brands in terms of fragrances. And
Mhm.
I used to buy all of that stuff because, that was what I knew and what I saw and it was easy to access. And, I find that those mass market brands, they market towards genders, right? They'll just say this is a female fragrance, this is a male fragrance, and or this is a neutral fragrance. But for me personally, when choosing a fragrance, I would go to what would be marketed as a male fragrance.
Yeah,
That's
that's
my
true.
go-to. I will like sweet fragrances for me has never been something, even though I bought it in the past, has never been something that I was really like feeling in any way. But I like the male fragrances, so I buy male fragrances, and I find it like a little bit. I don't understand why we market scents towards different, like female males. I think that it's really, like you said, it's your personality, right? It's what resonates with you and what sits well on you is the fragrance that you'll be attracted to. And instead of packaging it in a pink bottle or in a purple bottle, like, I just don't get that marketing component around
Well,
that.
that's only very, I believe, in the West. I own, just to a fun fact, I own many different hoodies and shirts and T-shirts that are pink. Some of them are
Yeah,
very, very vibrant pink, and I think it's one of the most beautiful colors. So do millions of other people across the world. If you go to India, pink, every single man will wear it without being judged. So even from art's point of view, just like colors and scents, they have no gender, they're
yeah,
genderless. The essence is about who you are, as we mentioned in the previous question that you had, is that who you are. So if you're more gravitating towards woody and whatnot, it again has to do with your subconscious. Usually
yeah,
a people, females who are very independent and strong in certain ways in life, gravitate towards scents that are more woody, very deep,
spicy.
you know
Yeah,
so that's what, for me, it's totally genderless. I mean, a
yeah,
scent,
I do
although
too.
we do have to allow some of our clients know that their scents are of more feminine and masculine,
Or
but hey,
sweeter, right?
there are men who love feminine smells,
Oh yeah.
and
Oh yeah.
and
Feminine
there's nothing
energy
wrong
is
with
like
it.
feminine
Yeah.
and male energy is different than gender, right? So, I mean, that's another subject all in itself, but I think that, I understand the notion of where the fragrance leans, but I love that
Yeah,
it's really your personality that chooses it. I love that,
exactly.
I
And
think
life
it's,
experience and everything
yeah,
is in your subconscious,
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
things that bring you back also to childhood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For example, I had a fragrance at home. My brother has recently been living with me, and he smelled the fragrance and he said to me, "Oh my gosh, that smells so much like Dad." And I was like, "What are you
Yeah.
talking about? This fragrance smells like Dad." And I wore it for years,
Exactly.
but I never
So,
linked it to smelling like my father. So now he's wearing it. I stopped wearing it just because I got sick of it and went into something else. But I ended
yeah.
up buying him a bottle for Christmas because he's like, it smells like our father, and that brings him back to childhood and good memories, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So that's very, as you can see, this talk is developing into that. This is how everyone should look at fragrances.
Yeah.
It's not just something overall. The idea was a long time ago, spray it so it can smell good for people. But there's more to a fragrance, correct? So it has to do with you. I personally wear it for myself. I've some, I'm not going to name names, but there are other fragrances that I use that some of them are very, very, it goes against every single thing, and it might smell like a vegetable, but I like it and it smells good,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah.
I
So
love that.
fun.
I
So
really, really
let's
love
get
that.
into always we ask these questions or often, how is sustainability influencing the future of fragrance creation and consumption, in your opinion?
Well, there's not much to it. Well, what happened is that real modern day perfumery or fragrances came into being in really in 1900s with the development of organic chemistry. This is when we started creating lab molecules for certain scents. Before that, prior to that, it was all either alcohol, based or water based, where people used to just use all natural ingredients in multiple different ways. But how it's going to affect it, it's the world is becoming, especially in the West, we are becoming more and more aware of the effect we have as consumers on the environment,
Yeah,
right?
clearly.
So in many different ways. So a perfume, there's so many different ways it can contribute negatively to our environment. Again, one thing I'm personally against of, as I mentioned before, is that very putting so much into a packaging
Yeah, I
that
agree.
is discarded right after you open it. Another ethical practice is another one when it comes to harvesting these natural ingredients in different parts of the world. Now there's more and more awareness, but there's still you see, for example, children working in the harvest. Meanwhile, those fragrance those ingredients are resulting in fragrances used in luxury markets. So how it's going to affect the long term, we are becoming more aware. There's more and more usage of synthetic notes. Just because a note is synthetic does not mean it's bad. Every note, especially here, depending on the country, but countries like Canada, USA, most European countries, they're very strict. You cannot just use about anything, right? So lab created notes and molecules are coming handy in helping overall the environment, because there's a byproduct of creating these ingredients for the perfume industry. For example, you have creating essential oils from a something patchouli. There's heating involved. There's
Yeah.
different chemicals involved and whatnot. So uh, lab created synthetic notes, good ones, the ones who are approved and safe for use. Then they're helping it in long term. Packaging is very important for me personally, and that's why Lescento we stayed away from anything like too
Well,
luxurious.
you have to say your packaging is outstanding. It's beautiful packaging and it's very
Thank you.
simple and you can tell, you feel it's very of packaging options that are available to us, it's very environmentally conscious.
And that was the idea. We just wanted to stay away from cellophane. We wanted to stay away from anything that is going to be, discarded into the environment, and just keep the focus on creating, unique fragrances.
Yeah, absolutely. You've done a great job at
I
that.
I want to know, is there like an expiration to fragrances? And also, how would you care, like is there like a certain, like, should you not leave your fragrance out in heat, or is there a way that you could care for your fragrance to
And does it
increase
expire
longevity of
also?
it?
And adding like that, does it expire?
Yeah,
You know,
that's
after
100%. So, just going back to how a perfume is created, what we do, I mean, most of niche perfumeries, is that once we formulate a perfume, it goes into these giant jugs, and they go for what we call maceration. This is for the scent to take that harmonious scent before filtration and bottling, up to 6 to 8 weeks, almost 2 months before we bottle them. So once a fragrance is bottled, there's no air in the fragrance. Another thing I wanted to mention is that sometimes you smell a fragrance, you like it, but once you have introduced air into your fragrance,
changes.
it might change, and it usually changes for good with oxygen. How to care for your perfume, it's very important. Never in direct sunlight, and that's why we chose amber bottles. Never in excessive heat or cold. Often enough, if it's left in the car, you might see, if the bottle is clear, you might see some of the oils uh, condensing, and the solution becoming cloudy. Dark, cool places, in a shelf somewhere. Even in a bathroom, it's not recommended in your shower, where you take a shower and there's heat and humidity. So it's always good in your bedroom or somewhere that is dark and cool. Now, do fragrances expire? They absolutely do, depending on their formulation, depending on their notes. Usually, a fragrance can expire within 2 to 5 years. But now we also have to define what expiration means. You can buy a fragrance now. For example, our fragrances expire within 3 years, right? So it might smell still good in 10 or 15 years from now, but it's not going to have that smell that you like, or you purchased that perfume that you're used to. So expiration in perfumes really doesn't mean that it expires and it smells like water. What expiration means, that it expires, and after a certain date, let's say 2 years or 3 years after usage, or a month, whatever it is, that it no longer smells what the intention was by the nose or the perfumer
Yeah,
who created it.
yeah.
Yeah,
Kind of like a wine, I guess,
exactly.
wine
Exactly.
stays with time. If you have a wine that is meant to be a short-lived wine and you drink it in 10 years, it's not going to have the same notes as it
yeah.
did in the first year, right?
Exactly.
So that's very
Exactly. Yeah.
interesting. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, this has been really fun. I've really learned a lot, and I love the artistic expression that comes with creating a fragrances the way you've done it. And
Thank you.
you have the 5 fragrances. We've started to. You've been our first fragrance line at Boutique Skin Envie, so we're very excited about that. And so
Thank you.
far, it's done incredibly well. People really have received it well, and the comments that I get a lot is the uniqueness of the fragrances, but also the quality of the fragrances. People feel that it's a high quality fragrance that they're putting on themselves, and it's not like anything I've ever smelled before at the same time. So I love fragrances. I've always loved them. I love niche fragrances more than mass market, but it's like nothing I've ever smelled before. So it's really great. Is there anything that we have to look forward to with Lescento in the next coming months, with new fragrances
Well,
coming out?
Well, we have launched the Essence of Mastery, which is 5 fragrances. We have right now in formulation about 6 other fragrances, which we are not going to release yet, because we just launched the first 5.
Yeah.
But we definitely are going to. We should have, again, some of these new formulations are going through testing and some focus groups for us to really understand if they're viable or not for different age groups. But we should be releasing fragrances, not in the next few months, but I would say in 2025, as we move towards winter, maybe sometime in late summer, early fall of this year.
So like the
Yes.
third
Amazing.
and
So
fourth
fun.
quarter. That's exciting. Well, what's also
Yeah.
so fun about what you have is you have the the opportunity to try the Mastery collection by purchasing a sample kit with five different fragrances, so you can see what it is that that fits with your personality.
And exactly, it's not for everyone. I've had different scents, different reactions to them. I've had a 26-year-old who is deeply in love with one of our fragrances, and a 58-year-old who said that it smells like a grandmother. So for us, it's just like, as I mentioned, it's the poetry for the nose, and it doesn't make it that the person's taste bad. It's not for everyone. But if that's why we have the minis discovery set for our clients to just try them first and see if any of them resonate for them.
I think it's great.
I personally love Glow Up the most. That's the one that I wear the most often.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's one of our best sellers, and that's the falls within Oriental Spicy family, and the cardamom and.
Bossy is really popular, but my personal favorite is Fire. Is it how you pronounce
knew it.
Fire?
Fire, yeah.
Yeah, because it's very, like, for me, it's very deep and masculine, and I love it.
Fire actually created Lescento.
Oh,
Fire was the initial fragrance that I created for myself. So initially, I wanted to create this fragrances for myself, and then I started wearing it, and I got many compliments. Not that I wore it for people, but I got a lot of compliments, and everywhere I went. And the Fire was actually the main reason I was interested to develop more. And yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. I love
Very
it.
fun. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing all of this with us. We really
No problem.
time today. We're very excited to be carrying Lescento on Boutique Skin Envie, and we're looking forward to everything that's to come.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for the invitation. And again, for the audience members, we hope anyone who tries them will find a signature scent, and hope that, in any information that we share today will be of, use for the listeners.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, please take a moment to rate, review, and follow us on social at Skin Talks Pod. We'll see you next week.